What if you could extend Claude's capabilities with your own custom tools, like rolling dice, querying databases, or processing files, without writing a single line of API glue code? You'll see exactly how to configure the Anthropic client to discover and call remote tools from a FastMCP server, including the required MCP server's structure with its type, URL, and matching name fields. We'll cover the mandatory /MCP/endpoint path, the Anthropic beta header for protocol versioning, and when to include the authorization token, complete with the exact error message you'll get if authentication is missing. The example demonstrates the minimal working setup, though production deployments would typically secure the connection as shown in the authentication section of the docs.
Import Anthropic. From rich import print. Hash your server URL. Replace with your actual URL. URL equals https:// your server URL.com. Client equals Anthropic. Anthropic. Response equals client beta messages create. Model equals Claude Sonnet 4-20,250,514. Max tokens equals 1,000. Messages equals role. User content. Roll a few dice. MCP servers equals. Type URL. URL. FURL/MCP/. Name dice server. Extra headers equals. Anthropic beta. MCP client 2025-04-04. Print response content.
This demonstrates AI tool integration via the MCP protocol, where Anthropic models dynamically discover and invoke external tools through standardized endpoints. The pattern enables clean separation between tool implementation and AI interaction. Servers expose callable functions through any MCP-compatible method, while clients configure the model to access these tools via URL endpoints. Currently, the MCP connector only supports tool discovery through the List Tools endpoint, with other MCP features like resources and prompts remaining unavailable through this integration. The implementation follows a client-server model where servers must implement the MCP protocol with a /MCP/path prefix, though the specific tool exposure method can vary. While the example uses FastMCPs, at MCP tool decorator for simplicity, servers could expose tools through alternative methods as long as they remain discoverable via the required endpoint. Clients specify server connections in the MCP servers, parameter with exact name matching between client configuration and server registration being critical mismatches produce clear error messages like MCP server dice server requires authentication. The server name, URL path, and optional authorization token form the core connection contract, with transport type SSE or HTTP configurable during server deployment. This approach extends AI capabilities while maintaining control over sensitive operations. You host tools in your own infrastructure, exposing only what the model needs through well-defined interfaces. The pattern excels for real-time data access, proprietary calculations, or system interactions beyond the model's knowledge cutoff, though it requires maintaining the tool servers. Production deployments typically include authentication, as demonstrated by the error response when authorization token is missing, while development can use temporary solutions like ngrok for public URL exposure. The current implementation focuses solely on tool execution, with other MCP features remaining unavailable through this connector. Let's break it down.
Import Anthropic. From rich import print.
This imports the Anthropic SDK for Claude API interactions and RichPrint for formatted console output. The Anthropic package enables MCP tool integration through its Beta Messages API, while Rich provides syntax-highlighted debugging, essential for inspecting tool responses. For production use with authenticated servers, you'd typically include an authorization token parameter matching your FastMCP server configuration, as the server will reject unauthenticated requests with a 401 error containing the message, missing authorization token.
Hash your server URL. Replace with your actual URL. URL equals https://yourserverurl.com.
This placeholder URL must be replaced with your actual MCP server address, requiring the /mcp/path suffix for correct endpoint routing. The server name, Dice Server, must exactly match the server's registered name, or you'll get a tool not found error during discovery. While the example uses FastMCPs, at MCP tool decorator for tool exposure, any discoverable endpoint works as long as it appears in the list tools response. Currently, only tools are supported through this connector. Resources and prompts require direct MCP integration. Production deployments should include authorization token in the config, as omitting it triggers a 403 missing authorization token error. The server can use either SSE or HTTP transport, configured via MCP, run transport equals SSE, or similar on the server side.
Client equals Anthropic.
Initializes the Anthropic client with MCP connector support using default configuration. This client will discover available tools by querying the server's list tools endpoint at the specified /mcp/path. The server must expose tools in a discoverable format, typically via @mcp tool decorator, though other methods are supported. The server name in client config must exactly match the server's registered name. And for secured servers, you must include authorization token in the MCP server's array. Currently, only tools are supported through this MCP integration, not resources or prompts, with transport type, SSE, or HTTP configured server-side. Production deployments typically require authentication, as shown in the documentation's error examples.
Response equals client beta messages create. Model equals Claude Sonnet 4-20,250,514.
This specifies the Claude Sonnet 420250514 model for request processing and configures external tool servers via MCP servers. Each server entry requires a type, URL, the server's base URL with /mcp/path suffix, and a name that must exactly match the server's registered name. The server must implement the list tools MCP endpoint for tool discovery, though tools can be exposed through any method, not just FastMCPs, at MCP tool decorator. Currently, only tools are supported through this connector, not resources or prompts, and the transport SSE or HTTP is server configurable via MCP. Run. Production deployments typically require authorization token, omitted here for brevity, with missing auth triggering a 401 unauthorized, missing authorization token error.
Print response content.
Outputs the raw response content from the MCP-enabled API call. This demonstrates the complete flow: model processing, tool discovery via the server's list tools endpoint, and execution. The server name, Dice Server, must exactly match the server's registered name, and the URL path must include /mcp/ for proper endpoint routing. Tools can be exposed using @mcp tool decorators or any other method as long as they're discoverable via list tools. Currently, only tools are supported through this integration, not resources or prompts. For production, include authorization token in MCP servers if required, as missing authentication returns a 401 error with message, missing, or invalid authorization token. The server supports configurable transports, SSE, or streamable HTTP, and can be deployed using any public URL method, including ngrok for development or cloud services for production. FastMCP remote integration pattern. This code connects Anthropic's messages API to FastMCP servers by specifying server endpoints in the client configuration, enabling AI models to discover and invoke remote tools through the list tools endpoint. The server name in client configuration must exactly match the server's registered name, and the /mcp/ path suffix is required for proper endpoint routing. While the example uses @MCP tool decorators to expose tools, any discoverable tool implementation works as long as it appears in the list tools response.
The server that answers without being called still waits for the right question